So, welcome. Thanks so very, very much for joining me. I know that your time is precious, and I've put a lot of precious time into this presentation, like a lot. And for some reason, and I'm sure all the teachers here can really attest to this, for some reason this is quite intimidating for a lot of us because there's a lot of eyes, and there's some kind of notion that I have to know a certain level of things to be able to stand up here and, share with you. And to a certain level I do, and there's also a big part of this subject that I am yet to even touch upon. So I can just stand here and be really open and candid and honest with you as I speak about something that's really changed and impacted my life. My name's Ellen, and I really just wanted to, I had in my notes that I can sit now. No, I really just wanted to start, it's that planned out. No, I really just wanted to start because I don't want to assume anything, and I don't want to assume anything. So show of hands, if anyone in the room has never experienced mantra or doesn't really know what this subject is about. Never experienced. Amazing. That's so cool. That's really cool. So a part of showing up to something that we're not really familiar with takes a lot of courage. So thank you for that. And for those of you that didn't raise your hand, I'm kind of assuming that perhaps you've gone to a kirtan, maybe you have a mantra practice, your home practice where there's mantra involved, or you've listened to it, or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to do my best to kind of give quite a grand overview, but also get quite specific. And I chose the name of this presentation and on Sunday the workshop. I chose the name of this before kind of knowing what I was going to be talking about. Because in my own practice, I feel like I'm really going in a very certain direction with mantra. And I feel like I'm being pulled by something. And really this is what this presentation is giving me a little bit more insight into. What am I being guided toward? So I'll break down mantra. I'll break down the guiding part, and I'll do my very best to break down the light part. So all of it is hidden in the name. So the purpose of mantra is to be used as a tool to guide the mind in a certain direction, like I just said, so that we can have a physical, emotional, and a spiritual experience of touching something that is beyond the mind, beyond our incessant thinking, our past impressions, and land upon something that is spacious, easeful, and there's a great level of connection when we touch upon that place. So I like to simply just think of mantra as a tool, a very, very, very effective tool. So what is it? Firstly, we'll break the word, the Sanskrit word down. Man, into two words, tra. Man translates to manas, the mind, or we'll get to that a little bit later, but a part of the mind that is quite busy, quite helpful, but oftentimes quite busy. So man, mind, and tra, like as in tantra, to liberate, to expand, to move beyond. So to move beyond or to move the mind even beyond itself. So these mantras that I am exposing myself to are only in Sanskrit, and it's an ancient language of India, which can be traced back to about 2000 BC. So it's been around, and there's quite a lot of Shakti, a lot of power just in these sounds in and of themselves because they've been chanted so many times. What is really cool, and as a modern day mind, and quite hard to wrap my head around, is that these mantras weren't thought up, they were revealed to seers and ancient yogis, great Maha yogis, who exposed themselves to this space where mantra was able to be revealed and they were able to absorb themselves into it. That is really far out, like really far out. And some amazing people to this day are actively, doing that, and they're going there. But for us, we can just shine a bit of a light in that direction. So the stage that these ancient yogis were hearing these mantras was something called pashyanti, which is a stage of mantra, and it's the process of hearing whilst in deep spiritual trance. That's why every single letter and word and sentence of the Vedas, which is an ancient spiritual Hindu text, is said to be of a revelation. So even when we're reading and absorbing these sounds, we're actually taking on a lot of their power without really even knowing it. So the power of mantra lies in its ability to lead the meditator to the same state of consciousness of that which it was heard. So like I said, that is really the goal, why we practice, to absorb into mantra, to move towards states of samadhi, these quite profound spaces where we are beyond the body and beyond the mind. So mantra says, come with me, I can take you there if there's dedication and if there's a level of reverence that's happening as well. A lot of love. Mantra really does love. It loves us to love it and enjoy it. So mantra is both an object of meditation, and it is also something which takes us into meditation. So it is, they say, the means and the ends. It's what gets us there, and it is that space, mantra. Also, something that was quite helpful on the scooter ride here is that mantra is a phrase or a number of phrases or syllables that help to quieten down incessant thinking. So I had the option to drive here 15 minutes thinking about this, or I had the option to sit and chant mantra. And I took that option because that's just what I do. And I don't enjoy listening to myself very much anymore. These patterns of the mind that spiral, I am now more and more aware of them, which is such a gift. And I have the anchor of mantra to pull me back into presence. And especially when you're on a scooter, you actually want to be really present, not going down a rabbit hole of thoughts and emotions and things like that. So it's helpful in that way as well. It replaces unhelpful thinking. And the sound body of the divine, just that, that little piece, sound body of the divine. And growing up religious, Christian, or Catholic rather, I forget now, but Catholic, God was a thing, but it was always outside of myself. So I'm still in the process of understanding what that means, sound body of the divine. When we chant these mantras, we're inhabiting the qualities of the divine that are already there, deep within us. So this is the mantra I was chanting on the drive here, and not because we're going to chant it. This is my Maha Mantra at the moment. And it's really a healing mantra that, I love this, that it sets our soul on fire, supporting our growth and our evolution as we walk down this dharmic path. So this is quite a magnificent mantra. And I just want to give a little bit of English so that when we're chanting that there's this a little bit of understanding. So this is a mantra to Rudra, which is the loving, most compassionate form of who we probably or may know in the room, Shiva, the Lord of Yoga. Before Shiva was Shiva, Shiva was Rudra. And Rudra translates to the howler, the great howler, the one who has so much compassion for humanity and sees that society, humans, we are suffering. And Rudra weeps over that. So that's why they say it's the compassionate form of Shiva. So the howler, he who realizes there's suffering and is on a mission to dissolve it. At the same time, this destruction that you may know of Shiva, Shiva is the one that dissolves and destructs, as is Rudra, but Rudra wants to shelter that destruction in kindness, rather than just like, killing everything in its sight or in our sight, or just raging. We want to be able to get really clear about what it is we're dissolving, and all the while we are protected in this shelter of kindness. So this mantra, Rudra, who is richly fragrant in spiritual essence. That's so cool. Richly fragrant in spiritual essence, who nourishes our spiritual endeavors. Sometimes it can be quite hard or challenging being on this path. We need and we deserve nourishment and support as we move through. From the many bondages of life, like a cucumber that's bound to its vine, may I be liberated from death, so that I can remember my true and everlasting immortal self. So like I said, it's a big mantra. So let's just do a little bit of call and response. Perhaps some of you in the room are already familiar with it, and we'll just break it down. You obviously have the Sanskrit up here. So we'll just go line for line. So sit yourself up nice and tall. Yogis in the room, you're just already tall. It's amazing. All right. So call and response, just repeating after me. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Beautiful. Let's chant it 3 times together. If you're really familiar with it, or if you want to challenge yourself a little, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Om Triambakam Yajamae. Sugandim Pushtivardhanam. Urvarukamiva Bandhanan. Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. This is the sound body of the divine, and that part of ourself that wants our soul to be set on fire. And or a good indication of us knowing that we want to set our souls on fire is that we show up to practice, is that we show up to free presentations, that we show up and we're open and we're open to learning. Because really all that's what mantra wants us to do. It wants us to simply show up, whether we're having a good day, something in between, or a really bad day. It just says, show up to me. Show up for yourself, really. So that mantra is both, in a sense, incredibly fiery. It's like rubbing two sticks together, creating a lot of presence, a lot of heat, a lot of transformative fire in the body. But like I said, mantra really does enjoy that we soak it in kindness and that we soak it in reverence. Love and understanding that we have these cycles of our minds and of our lives, but ultimately, like I said, we show up because we're willing to do the work. We're willing to transform and move forward. So that is that mantra. And I remember when I first moved here last year around June, I'd just gotten here. I was so fresh and I was teaching and it was all happening, and Octavio was like, right, here's a link. Really bad sound quality, actually. It was just like a beautiful teacher playing a harmonium in a big studio, so it was quite echoey. He's like, here's a link, learn this mantra, and this is going to be your mantra. And from then on, I knew that I was stepping into the fire of my practice, that I was actually stepping up. So that's really what it requires of us, to step up, but to do it lovingly. So where do we guide it? Some mantras don't need guiding. There's the Mula mantra Gam Ganapati Namaha, a mantra to Ganesh. Ganesh, or this specific one, doesn't need a location because it's so in tune with where it is in our bodies or our psyche or our karma that we need help. So some mantras don't actually need a location in the body. We just need to feel it and to chant it, internalize it. But a lot of mantras, and especially for humans that have nice, busy, proactive minds, we need anchors for the anchor of mantra to sit within. And then from that anchor, light, radiance, healing, power, confidence can thrive. So there's the three gates of meditation. So there's the Anahata Chakra, third eye center, and related to our inner teacher, the one that knows, like Ganesh, knows more than we know. I think it was the chanting for sure. So Anahata Chakra, the inner teacher, our command center, and it when we sit here in meditation, it begins to amplify our intelligence and our clarity and our peace of mind. But if we're there too often, or if we're there for the wrong intentions, it can be really overpowering this center because we're already here. We are already very, very much sitting up here. And we can become a little bit too egocentric, a little bit too driven by the ego and the wants and the desires of the mind. And it can kind of keep us up here floating. So there's one very powerful gate, but we have to do it with the right intention. And then Anahata Chakra. This is the chakra of the heart, the center of the chest, the spiritual heart. Lending or leaning us toward our compassion, our self-love, our ability to forgive ourselves and others. And a big part of our devotion kind of emanates from this place. So this place is said to be where we are in closest proximity to our source, to our soul, to God, to Shri, to Ganesh, to whoever it is that lands for you. Spending a little bit too much time here can be a little bit too oozy, too lovey, too much, and not enough action. Too much, everything's cool, everything's peace and love, but where's the action? So there's this combination within them all. Manipura Chakra. If you've ever done a fire practice here, we do a lot in this area. This helps us to burn away the lower mind, which I'll get to. The lower mind and the part of the mind that just keeps us in cycle and in habit. So this is an incredibly powerful and transformative place and brings upon power and courage and being able to rely upon ourselves and our actions. Great healing and nourishment can come from this place as well. The flip side is when this is weak, we can have really low self-esteem, poor digestion, and we're not really digesting our food, but let's be honest, our mental digestion is of equal importance. So we're not really digesting our experiences, we just enable them to continue to swirl. So this one is one that, not that I've had problems with it, but this one is the one that I've kind of come up against in describing. So defining light. It's like defining God. It's not seen, but like I said, how the ancient yogis enabled mantras to be unveiled to them. They were heard and they were, even though they're called seers, it's not physically seeing with your eyeballs. There's something from here that says, the seers of the mantras describe this light as not something physical we see with our eyes. Rather, it is the light of knowledge that unveils the mystery of the unknown and the unseen. So I think it's a little bit of a confusing thing that they're called seers and you know, great seers, but really it's this herd and it's this absorption into mantra and into this light that I'm speaking to. So for me, when I know that I'm moving in the right direction, things become more easeful and more graceful, not without speed bumps, but I have the bigger picture. I can see that where I'm going is the right direction because there's grace involved and there's less panic and less anxiety. It's there, but there's less of it. When I think, I'll get there anyway. Yeah, and I also think that when we're going in the right direction and we're moving toward light, we want to include others. We don't want to stand on our own and be stubborn with our opinions. We want to bring people into our field. Even if you're really, really introverted, there's a part of you that still knows that the process is still this community and bringing people in and together. So it's our inner truth and our divine knowledge. The wisdom that is uncovered once we dust the heart a little. If you've been to my kirtans, that's really, I speak to that quite often. It's this simply just sensing, Krishna Das said this, that chanting mantra is like just sweeping the heart clean. And you'll probably have to do it every single day, a few times a day maybe. But it's this maintenance of cleaning and clearing the heart so that we're not always moving through life with a veil or fog in front of us. So cleaning and clearing, and light begins to shine a little bit brighter. So much like how I said with the light relating to ease, it also sparks passion and drive and wanting to move forward. So after my practice this morning, I wanted to write in relationship to this slide. So for me, the light that I experience from within my own heart is emotionally ripe and incredibly weightless. Waves of spontaneous joy that often manifest as tears that just sit. They're not streaming, they're just present. Maybe watery eyes is better. And also, I find myself smiling a little bit, and I just think if someone's seeing, not that anyone is, but it's like a little bit weird, but it's this manifestation of myself touching something that's beyond my mind and beyond the doubt and the fear that is often very, very present. So getting a glimpse of myself as free. However, putting words to our light instantly diminishes its power. So it's an experimental, and also we need a little bit of science and we need a little bit of practicality behind it as well. But it really is in the feeling. So I had on Friday, it was Friday the 13th, and the full moon was coming up, and a presentation was coming up, and there's just so much going on in my personal life, as is all of us. We have so much going on, even if we don't recognize it. I had such a meltdown like 5 minutes before our team meeting, so everyone in the room. And I was so lucky that Karina literally picked me up, my fellow teacher over there, picked me up, and she just, calmed me down a little bit. And I was saying, I'm having so many big emotions. How can I get up and stand about how can I get up here and talk about how powerful mantra is in diminishing those thoughts when here I am just shaking with them? And this is, I should have put quotes, but this is what Karina said: light is that which shines upon dark places. So when we're practicing and really showing up, it is inevitable that we're going to shine fluorescent, those type of lights on our dark corners. And to speak to our light and the beauty and the abundance of light without addressing our darkness is really doing light a disservice. So I'm just so glad that I'm here, that I'm practicing in this way, and that I have just intelligent, wonderful, beautiful women and also men in my life that can be like, hey, you're actually doing fine, you're a human being. And yeah, that's why it actually changed kind of the direction of my presentation, because I was going to get up here and just really speak to light and how amazing light is. And then, like I said, it would have been doing a disservice to light to not speak to this stuff. Let's just call it stuff, the darker stuff. So what clouds and obstructs our light is often patterning and a disobedient mind, which we can refer to as darkness, and where our thoughts, where we have actually supported these thoughts, we've given them a foundation, and they've gathered a lot of power and momentum and lead us down quite interesting paths. So it's important to move through emotions with grace, and something that I'm trying to be really present with is that when emotion arises, not to distract, not to scroll, this is what I do. I look to pick at people who are close to me. It's terrible. I look to pick at things that they're doing or not doing, and I create something out of it. It's mad. It's madness. But I'm present with it now, becoming more and more present to it. So it's asking us to be quite bold, because we can, like this very cheesy but really relevant little statement, we can rise and we can see it, we can sit in it, we can breathe with it, we can be compassionate, we can have that shelter of kindness around it so that it can be liberated. Or we can just, skip away and pretend that it's all light and all Shri and all good. And sometimes it's not easy, and sometimes it's actually not very pretty at all, but very necessary. So the mind's darker or distracted qualities soften due to the repetition of the divine name. So due to its repetition, those darker qualities of the mind and our habits begin to soften and reveal our natural state, one of peace and softness and of silence. And I find that when we get so attached to the incessant thinking, we start to not believe that we are naturally peaceful and sweet and nurturing and kind and compassionate. So this is from Yogarupa Rodstraker's teacher, so our teacher's teacher, Panditji, said, from here, from softening those darker qualities of the mind, from here great things can be achieved. Intuitive wisdom can sprout, our burdens lifted, and our spirit liberated. So that sounds pretty great and pretty wonderful. And over time, over long periods of time, I would say, because we've spent a long period of time solidifying these actions of the mind, the lower mind. We've really supported that. So over time and gradually, as we continue to practice with reverence, these fears lose their grip. And that's why I feel like the Maha Mantra is so relevant, is because it does exactly that. It begins to lift the weightiness of our lower mind, like the cucumber being pulled from the vine, our lower mind's reactions being pulled from our consciousness, so that they perhaps are no longer there, and then eventually they no longer have any charge and they've completely dissolved. This is another Krishna Das thing. Sometimes I get confused, Ram Das, Krishna Das. I went through a period of listening to them both at the very same time, just binging on the two of them. But this, I believe, is Krishna Das. He said, darkness is believing everything we think. And I don't remember ever in my life, even when I was, from a very young age, I don't remember anyone ever saying, your thoughts, just because you're having them, does not mean they're true. No one ever said that to me. And it's not until I started practicing yoga and started to realize, whoa, there's some stuff going on in there. Is it true? And sometimes it is, and a lot of the times it's actually not. All right. So before we get to this one, does anyone have any questions or insights at all along this path? Doesn't have to do with the slides in particular, but maybe something that came up for them in the mantra, perhaps. I just know that I get on a roll and I never ask questions, and I just speak. So it's okay that I just wanted to air the space. I feel like, yeah.
So when you go through that mantra, do you just feel like the vibration of doing it, that's what works its magic? Or do you feel like, are you focused on something that's giving you?
That's a good question, because the mantras themselves, they don't have an object attached to them like the English language does. That's an iPad and that's a chair, and we know what that is and we create an emotion to it. But these mantras, because it's in Sanskrit and they're heard, we don't have an attachment to the object or exactly what it is. So as we're chanting, the idea is to to use the sound, especially if it's vocal. You're going to be moving with the sound more than anything, and the vibration that it offers. But to less and less have an understanding of what the mantra means, but whilst you're chanting it, not be thinking, this is to Rudra. He has sweet smelling essence of spirituality. There's a cucumber and it's being pulled from the vine, you know? So there's a backstory. You know there's a backstory. You know the direction it's taking you. It's liberating you from fear. And you can chant the mantra to that. Does that make sense? And if you're chanting it vocally, that's a great starting point. That's the power of kirtan, where you're chanting vocally and it's a whole body experience and it moves emotion. But when it starts to go internal, that's a whole new level of exploration. It's mental until we can detach from things being linear and enabling sound to pulse, the mantra to pulse. Still working on that. Yeah. And especially for longer mantras like the Maha Mantra and the Gayatri Mantra that Pelin spoke to last week. These longer mantras, it's kind of a little bit hard for our mind to sense Om Triambakam Yajamaye Sugandhim pulsing, because there's so many things going on and we read it like a script. But when it starts to, or we do it often enough, or we get initiated where that mantra that's this big turns into something that is this big, and then 3 sounds of that big mantra become easier to identify as a pulse. I feel like I'm going quite deep, but does that feel like it did something? It answered something? Vibration is great. Starting off vocally, vibration is where it's at. It'll help to still the mind. Yeah. And then it goes, and then from there, its job is to go internal so that we can absorb. We and the mantra become one eventually. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
When do you chant mantras? Do you have like a routine during your daytime, or is it just in a, I don't know, daily
Yeah.
situation?
It's a daily situation, and it's also a very, very, I have a really, now, as of the last few months, I have quite a strict set of mantras that I follow in my practice. After asana, breath work, mantra japa, so with the malas. And then beyond that, I'm always chanting to Ganesh and to Krishna and to Radha. Kirtan style is kind of an everyday thing for me. And then, kirtan once a week here on Sunday nights. So that's a part of my learning as well. So it's definitely a daily thing. But in the mornings, it's very specific. And it hasn't got a melody. There's no instruments. It's not supposed to be entertaining at all. That's a different form of mantra, so mantra japa. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So the Vedanta Mindmap. So when I first saw this mind map, I kind of, I didn't really want to believe it because it speaks to the part of the mind, let's say the ego, that likes to have control. And it's like, well, I don't know about that. But the more that I see it and hear it being spoken about from my teachers, the more that it makes so much sense, and it actually simplifies, for me personally, why we, all of us, have so much attachment to our thoughts that are unhelpful. There's a whole machine going on that supports these thoughts. And for me, this mind map kind of sets it out in motion. So firstly, Vedanta is one of 6 philosophical schools of the Hindu religion. And one thing that I'll say in a moment, actually. Yeah, so here's your mind as a blue square. So on the side here, how it says the 5 senses, we all know that we use them predominantly. We use them to interact with the world and to also, take information and make observation and judgments, as we all do. And we need to, it's important. But what it is very, very close to is our manas. And like I said at the very beginning, manas, it's the root sound of manas, of this part of the mind. This part of the mind is extremely reactive, and it governs and gets information from our senses. And its main function is to keep us safe. So crossing the road out here, or just being on our scooter, we need to have some reaction. We need to be quick. But a lot of the time, that reactional part of the mind is always on. So we're always, we're edgy, and anything that comes in, we have to analyze it. And that keeping me safe part ends up being detrimental because all we're doing is reacting. And then we have the Ahamkara, which is related to, like I said, our ego, but not good or bad. So this is the part of ourself that is connected to the I am, the I amness. I see, I feel, I touch, I do, I. And that's great. That's self-identity, and we need it if we want to pursue great things, which we all do. But when it gets a little bit too much is when it's I, you, and there's a separation. And we begin to create a separation with our ideas and the ideas and the worldview of, of what yoga speaks to, is that it's actually all one, and we are all very much connected. The Ahamkara is out of balance or out of check, then we'll simply just be fueling our ego with the I amness. We have the chitta, the part of the mind that is the storehouse of memory. So Patanjali, the great sage that gave us the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali speaks to chitta as the mind as a whole. The Vedanta school speaks to chitta as the part of the mind that stores memory. So just to differentiate. So it compares our past and our present experiences, and it informs our response. So we do that a lot. Well, I'll speak for myself. I do that a lot. In relationships, I do that a lot. I just copy and paste, and I think that because previously there's been a reaction to that, or there's been an action there, that it's going to happen here. And I wasn't really aware of that until my current relationship, where my partner is an actual mirror and stops me from doing that. So that's been quite profound. I feel like I'm hanging out and really learning about my chitta a lot at the moment, which is awesome and really challenging. And then we have the buddhi. The buddhi is the great decider. So the buddhi takes the information from all 3 of those parts of the mind. The manas, the ahamkara, the chitta. That's a lot of mind. It takes information in and it says, okay, what am I going to do with it? So if the buddhi is weak, buddhi is not necessarily good or bad. If the buddhi is weak, we will simply just fall into old patterns, and the buddhi will allow that. If the buddhi is quite charged, then the buddhi has the ability to break us free, to liberate us, takes all the information in and says, actually that sucks. And over time I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to liberate myself from just repeating or lifting my memories and holding on to them. So buddhi notices when also a huge part of an activated, increased buddhi is when it notices that we've wandered away in meditation. Sometimes you can be wandering for minutes and minutes and minutes. Buddhi's just on the story as well. But if the buddhi is a little bit sharp, perhaps it'll be minutes, or perhaps it'll be seconds. Buddhi is the one that draws us back. So if you've ever had that experience like, oh, damn it, I'm thinking about blah, that's buddhi. Buddhi's like, come back here. This is where the gold is. This is where the light is. Come back to presence, to the mantra, to the object of your meditation. And as you'll see, there's those little black lines that actually cut into the blue mind. And this is because this part of the mind, or this section, buddhi, it's quite permeable. And on the, what is that, your right, on your right you have Purusha, which is a whole nother presentation worth of information. But Purusha is pure consciousness, the part of us that is changeless, the part of us that is all-knowing. And buddhi and Purusha are very, very close, and they work off and through each other. So we must get in touch with our inner strength and our inner willpower that enables us to shine light on unlit corners of the mind. So these are unlit corners, specifically those three. So if we don't know that we have dark corners, then we're cruising through them and empowering them, really. So manas, I wanted to put like something of a obviously like a theater thing, and everyone knows Greece, right? I found so many things that were funny, but this is quite universal, I guess. So manas, like I said, the mind loves a good storyline. So manas in particular, governed information by the five senses, loves a good storyline. And when we turn to meditation, we encounter a stream of thoughts which flow through the lower mind, the manas. These thoughts parade in front of us like they're on a stage. Like, hey, this is more entertaining than any kind of mantra is. That's what manas does. Keeps luring you away from presence. So when our attention stops on an entertaining thought, the little drama unfolds, and the neutral stance of buddhi is completely lost. So what our mind focuses on, or what the manas focuses on, will strengthen that thought or that intention. What the mind allows to pass through it enables disentanglement. And that thought loses its influence on us. It loses its charge. And here we can slowly transform, leaving a cleaner and clearer path toward our higher levels of consciousness. And really, this is why we're handed a mantra, because it becomes a focus of attention. When we're wandering, we can come back, because it's very hard to be entertained by our thoughts and then come back to nothing. That's not what the mind is interested in. If it's entertained, it wants to come back to something that is positively charged and is taking us somewhere. That's where the mind wants to go. It wants momentum because that's its natural state. But we want it to move in a momentum that is positive and influential to our growth. All right. So mantra, for me, in my own personal practice, is like a refuge, but it is also, like I said, a fast track toward transformation. And I know this, and the more I practice this, the more it is embedded within me. So really, what we're all doing, whether we know it or not, we are searching and searching and searching for peace, for stability and for stillness of the mind. Even if we don't practice yoga, turning to drugs or anything that alters the mind, it's that reaching for peace, because life is just so full on sometimes. So like I said, for me, the mantra is always there and always present when I come back to it, regardless of what I'm going through. So hence why I put the you know, there's light, but there's also an acknowledgement of the dark. And for me, this mantra speaks to that and truly speaks volumes to that. So this is the mantra to removing us from darkness toward our light. Om Asatoma. And I just like to finish with a few rounds of it, if you would indulge. I know that a lot of you in the room familiar. This is quite a popular and well-known mantra. And for me, the best melody that I've heard, not bias or anything, but there are many melodies for this one, like all mantras in kirtan form. But for me, this one is both light and it has weightiness. It is both light and it honors that dark. So repeat this after me. Om Asatoma. Om Asatoma Sat Gamaya.
Satgamaya.
Tamasoma
Tamasoma.
Jyotir Gamaya.
Jyotir Gamaya.
Brit Yorma
Mrityorma.
Amritam Gamaya.
Amritam Gamaya.
So lead me, first line, lead me from untruth to truth. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from death to immortality, the dying of the three parts of the mind that keep us stuck. So spiritual, emotional, not always a physical death, but a death of incessant thinking is what leads us and guides us toward that eternal space. Asatoma Sat Gamaya. Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Asatoma Sat Gamaya. Take a breath or two if you're still there. I just want to vocally appreciate you for being here and for showing up and for chanting, especially if that was really new to you. And yeah, just to throw it out there that I'm holding just a half-day workshop on this, the potency of mantra, how it can illuminate the mind, how it can show us where we're a little bit stuck, and be very specific about moving us in a direction that is less stagnant, less stuck. If that is something that you're interested in or around for, it's this coming Sunday, so from 8 till 12, and then there's kirtan on Sunday, so there's going to be a lot of mantra vibrating through these walls, and every day there always is at this incredible place. So so tonight you can still get the early bird, so 400k instead of 5, but if you're last minute, 500k for the workshop. And if you're coming to the workshop, you get access to 3 months free of our online platform called the Practice Online. It's genius, I know. And and all of us teachers, we share every single month, whether it's meditation, asana, insight, lectures, mantra, whatever it is, that every single month there's something new happening on that platform. So like I said, so very grateful that you're here, and thank you so very, very much, and what a pleasure.